Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to my updated JAX guide. A lot of you guys have been asking for this. For me to update the rune selection and build choices because it's been a few months since I dropped mine. I think I dropped in like June or so, like patch 14.11, so a lot has changed, but also not much has changed. But the biggest change was Lethal Tempo getting released, and so I just wanted to make a quick update. This video should probably be like 15, 20 minutes. Just talking about the rune changes as well as what I like to build in most games now. So yeah, let's just dive right into it. So starting off with Lethal Tempo. I think it's really good. I've heard a lot of mixed opinions from people. Um, but I've been playing around with it and I think it's really good for matchups that you already win, right? So in my guide a few months ago, I recommended going PTA in a lot of matchups that were easy, matchups that you win. And we'll get to matchups later on. I have this whole little cheat thing here for which rune for each matchup. But yeah, for matchups that you win already, I think Lethal Tempo is really good. It just does PTA's job, but a little bit better. So we're talking like easy Kale matchup, Trundle matchup, Olaf, stuff like that. Lethal Tempo is really good. And so this is the page that I rock with right now when I take Lethal. I like Presence of Mind. I think it's even stronger for JAX than it was last patch. I like taking Legend Haste because you don't really need more attack speed when you have Lethal Tempo already. So it's better to have the ability Haste. I always take Last Stand over the other two. It's just personal preference. I like it more. I think it helps you win 1v1s more often than it doesn't. And then, yeah, since it's an aggressive page, I like Demolish. And Bone Plating is because most matchups that you take this in are like melee smash head together type matchups, so Bone Plating is pretty good with it. But yeah, this is the standard lethal page that I rock with when I take the rune. So moving on. Oh, one more little thing is these side runes down here in the bottom right. I like to take attack speed and adaptive on lethal. I think the early attack speed lets you ramp it up faster. And then I take early health because most of these matchups that I take lethal tempo in, I'm trying to kill the enemy pre-6 in early levels. So, moving on next, we got the Conqueror page. And so I take Conqueror against tanks mostly. I like taking Conk against tanks where I rush Ravenous Hydra. I think the healing amp that you get from it is really valuable with Ravenous Hydra. And yeah, overall, I think this is good against tanks, especially the ones that have stuff like attack speed slows, like Malphite, for example. You don't want to be taking lethal tempo into because he's just going to slow your attack speed and it's going to be pretty useless. So that's why I prefer Conqueror in the tanks. With Conqueror, I take Alacrity because I think you lack some attack speed. So I like to take Alacrity over Haste. Having the extra attack speed once you get Ravenous Hydra is pretty valuable. It lets you, you know, hit with Ravenous more often, which means more healing. And then, yeah, most Conqueror matchups, you want to be going Demolish Second Wind. Demolish is because you should be getting your Ravenous Hydra around minute 10, 11, 12, which means you have anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes to take plates, right? And so that's one of the best things you can do with Ravenous is you can walk under their tower, ignore the enemy, take a plate, and then heal up on the next wave with Ravenous and Second Wind and all that good healing. And so, yeah, I would go Demolish. And then Second Wind just because most tanks have a way to proc Bone Plating from far. So it's better to just go Second Wind. And yeah, I like 10% attack speed, Adaptive Force, and I would go Scaling Health or Base Health. It really depends on the matchup. But yeah, that's the Conqueror page. I take this in the tanks, and it's pretty solid. So, next we got Fleet Footwork. Fleet is good into ranged harass matchups, as well as some niche matchups like Aatrox, for example. I like taking Fleet because it lets you run out of his W where you otherwise wouldn't be able to. But like I said, we have the whole matchups thing in like 2 slides. So, Fleet, I like, yeah, you take this in the shitty matchups. If you're taking Fleet, you're probably not going to have a fun time in the game. I like going Legend Haste because going Alacrity seems kind of pointless in most of these matchups. You're not going to be getting much time to auto attack, so it's better to just go Haste. And then second wind Revitalize, because we're just trying to live. We're just trying to live, bro. Like, that's how these matchups are, is you just gotta try to survive. Like, there's not much more to it. So, second wind Revitalize, it's pretty good when you're running fleet. Synergizes well with like Doran Shield and all that good shit. And again, the health, you can go base health or scaling. It's really up to you. I like focusing on laning phase and early laning a lot, and so I usually go base health in more games than not. But the scaling one's pretty good too. So, next, we got Grasp. And Grasp is still really good on JAX. The one big change that I've made that I think is good is I take Sorcery second now instead of Inspiration, right? Because Cookies got changed to no longer give mana, which means that we don't have a good way to solve JAX's mana problem when taking Grasp. So that's why I recommend going Sorcery now. You could also go Precision and take Presence of Mind plus something else, but I think that Mana Flow Band Transcendence is better than Presence of Mind and Legend Haste. The Transcendence gives you 10 ability haste at level 8, I believe. And then at level 11, you get 20% cooldowns refunded on every single champion takedown, right? So assist or kill, which is really good for team fights. So I think Mana Flow Band and Transcendence are really good with Grasp Page at the moment. Some other small things, Overgrowth is good. Always take Overgrowth over Unflinching or Revitalize when running Grasp. And then I go double Adaptive with this page. Because when you take Grasp, you're usually playing matchups, in my eyes, that you can't auto attack much. So like Riven, Gragas, Renekton, or some other ones, like Fiora can space you well, Cassante can space well, Poppy. Like, these types of matchups are when you want to be going Grasp. And because of that, because you're not autoing much, it's better to just go double Adaptive and deal as much damage on those Grasp procs as you can. So, yeah, that's pretty much the 4 standard rune pages so far. Not too much has changed. It's really just replacing PTA with Lethal. I would never take PTA anymore. I think PTA is just not as good as Lethal, so just take it over PTA. And then, yeah, for Grasp, go Mana Flow Band Transcendence instead of Inspiration, because you'll run into mana issues otherwise. So, moving on. I want to talk about some smaller runes real quick. I kind of touched on this earlier, but basically, some people don't know when to take Bone Plating versus Second Wind. So, let me answer that real quick. Bone Plating, you want to be taking against champs that can't proc it from far away, right? So this means like Garen, for example, has to run into you to damage you. Riven has to run into you to damage you. Actually no, Olaf has his Q. Trundle has to run into you to damage you, right? These types of champs, Bone Plating is really good against. As for Second Wind, you want to be going Second Wind when you're against pretty much every other matchup, right? So like any champ that can proc your Bone Plating from far or easily, like Fiora, Camille, Aatrox, pretty much every tank like Malphite, Ornn, whatever, you want to be taking Second Wind because it'll just help you out more over the course of the lane against ships that can pop your Bone Plating really easily. Legend Haste versus Alacrity. I like taking Haste in when I take Fleet and when I take Lethal, as touched upon above. And then I like Alacrity with Conqueror. This really, I mean, a lot of it is just personal preference. I think that with Tempo I have enough attack speed, so I like going Haste instead. And with Conqueror I want more attack speed, so I go Alacrity. Demolish versus Overgrowth. In matchups where you think you'll be able to hit the tower, Demolish is good. Otherwise, just take Overgrowth as your secondary. That particularly pertains to like this page or the Conqueror page, right? So if you don't think you're going to be hitting tower, then don't take Demolish. Just take Overgrowth instead. Will be better. And then finally, with Revitalize, you only want to take this pretty much when you go Fleet and you're going Second Wind and Doran Shield to start. Just to have more healing is better, and you rush Ravenous, and it's pretty good into those range matchups. So yeah, moving on. Yeah, we got matchups now. So this is my matchup page and which rune I bring into which champions. So you'll notice that I bring Fleet into some of these heavy harass matchups, right? Like Aurora, Gnar, Gangplank, Kennen, Rumble, Quinn, Vlad, Vayne, this type of shit, dude. The shit that we all hate playing against. Bring Fleet into and rush Ravenous Hydra. Go like Second Wind, Doran Shield, all that good stuff. And you're just trying to survive lane and kill them with your jungler is usually the best bet. Conqueror. I take Conqueror into pretty much every single tank matchup. I think it's really good to go Conqueror and build Ravenous, because the thing with these tank matchups is most of these champions you beat early game and then they beat you after 1 to 2 items. Like Cho'Gath is a great example of a champ that you can kill early pretty easily, but once he gets 1 item, his Heartsteel, like you're fucked. You're just gonna get out damaged, you're never gonna be able to kill him. And so it's better to go Ravenous and just be able to take short trades and heal up and clear the wave faster than he can. Will just be better off for you, right? So I like going Ravenous with Conqueror in pretty much every single one of these matchups. I think it's really good. So yeah, that's Conqueror. Lethal Tempo is the rune that beats the most champions at the moment. And you'll notice I take Lethal Tempo into most bruiser matchups that you can all in and win, where you'll be able to hit them often to ramp up the lethal tempo, right? So you don't want to take lethal into stuff like Gragas, Fiora, Kali, Renekton, Cassante, Riven, because you can't auto attack these champions enough for it to be worth it. You're going to get interrupted a lot. But into easy champs to auto like Set, Garen, Alawi, Mordekaiser, Irelia, Wukong, Yorick, Yone, Kale, Trundle, like these champs that don't really have great CC and you can kind of just stick on them and auto them a bunch. Lethal Tempo just gives you a better all-in. And so that's why I take it in all of these matchups. Now, one thing you'll want to notice is like, this looks like Lethal is like the most popular rune, like take it in the most matchups, and that's technically true, but you're not actually going to be taking this in most of your games because you're not going to play these matchups very often. Like, a lot of these champs just don't get played top very often. The most common matchups for me that I play are usually Grasp or Conqueror matchups, is what I see the most. Like, I play against Skarner a lot, I play against Gragas a lot, Renekton a lot, Riven a lot, Poppy a lot. I play against those types of champs a lot more than I play against like Gwen or Yone or Olaf. So even though the most matchups, like you take lethal for the most matchups, you're not actually going to be taking lethal in most of your games, just because of how champ select goes. Most of these champs don't get blind picked very often. So yeah, that's this is like the matchup sheet. Again, I don't think I mentioned this, but I think most of you guys know I do have my Mobifier guide, where for every single matchup that you'll play against, you can just like click on the matchup and I tell you items to start, items to rush, what rune to take, trade patterns, how to win the trades, all that good shit. So just refer to that, but if you want a quick and easy thing to know what rune to take, you can just look at this whenever you want. I am planning to make a matchups YouTube video soon here as well. I think some people would benefit from that, where I just show like little tips and tricks for each matchup, as well as what to build. So that's pretty much the runes section covered, right? We got these 4 pages, some secondary runes, and then when I take each rune. So moving on, next we got building. And so most of the build stuff has stayed the same, in my opinion. There's really no changes to this from the original JAX guide I dropped. The only thing is I threw Stridebreaker in here because I know a lot of people like taking it. Now, I personally don't think it's that good. I think that in most situations, going Sundered Sky is just better than going Stridebreaker second. I think it's kind of like, it's good into range matchups. Like maybe if I was playing against Smolder, for example, I might want to take Stridebreaker or Vayne. It would be good. So I think if you're into like a heavy ranged enemy team comp, Stridebreaker's really good because it lets you stick on them. But for most like bruiser matchups and tag matchups, stuff like that, just don't go Stridebreaker, dude. It's just not gonna be as good as Sundered Sky. You're gonna be way like easier to kill. You don't deal as much damage. Sure, you have a slow, but in a lot of matchups, you don't need the slow to stick on people as JAX. So I think Stride is a really niche item, and I would build it in range matchups, and I think that's why it got popular, because over summer a lot of people played range top laners. But I think at the moment it's not that great. I think there's better items to build second. So yeah, these are pretty much the items. I build Ravenous first in a lot of matchups, a lot of tank matchups, a lot of ranged harass matchups. I like going Ravenous first. I think the healing just really helps you out. It lets you take bad trades and then just heal up in the wave. But the best, most consistent build at the moment is going Trinity, Sundered, and then Sterix, I've found. It's just a really strong 3-item core, which will set you up for really good team fighting and everything else in the game, right? You're going to be really tanky, but you also deal a lot of damage. And yeah, I would go Trinity, Sundered, Sterix in most of my games. You can rush Bork into some of these easy matchups, right? So like, if I'm playing against Olaf or like, I don't know, it's probably pretty good into Alawi, Garen. Some of these easier matchups, Bork is pretty good. But in most of my games, I still rush Trinity. I think Trinity is just really consistent, and the extra durability it gives you is pretty nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it on the item build. A lot of this stuff is still the same as it used to be. I just think the best build that you should be going most games is Trinity and the Sundered and the Sterix. Will serve you the best. So, oh yeah, I guess I forgot I had this slide. So yeah, when do you build each one of these? Pretty simple. Trinity in most of your games. Ravenous first against tanks and champs that harass you. And Bork in easy matchups. So if we go back to this, I would be going Trinity against most of the grass, all of the grass matchups. I'd be rushing Trinity, right? I'd go Bork into some champs like Olaf, like Irelia, Gwen. It's probably good against Kled, Yone, Trundle, Kale, like these easy-ass matchups that you just want to beat the shit out of the person. Going lethal is really good. And then Ravenous, I would build into every one of these tank matchups and most of these fleet matchups as well. The only one I wouldn't build Ravenous in is like Gnar, Aatrox. I don't think it's very good. But the rest of these, I would be going Ravenous. Yeah, that's pretty much when you want to build each one of these. And the last thing I wanted to cover was first buys, right? So for each rune, you want to be prioritizing different items at the start of the game. So for Grasp, we take Grasp in matchups where we can't auto the enemy as much, right? Matchups where they can interrupt us. Like Gragas, like Akali can go in her Shroud and you can't hit her. Fiora can space you well. Cassante is just Cassante, bro. Pantheon can stun you. So we go Grasp in these matchups where we don't get to trade on them much. And so for these matchups, it's more valuable to go Sheen because you're only trading with your W auto when your Grasp proc is up. And so having Sheen just buffs that up more than having like a longsword for damage on auto attacks that you don't even get to land for the most part. So yeah, with Grass build, I would rush Sheen and Ruby Crystal. You could also go Longsword instead of Ruby Crystal. It's really up to you and dependent on the matchup. First buys for Conqueror is Sheen and Longsword are both really good. So prioritize those, you'll be really strong. Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to touch on, sorry, I forgot this. I do build Ravenous Hydra against Gragas, even though he's in the Grass matchup. I take Grasp into him, but I do build Ravenous, so yeah, don't build Sheen against Gragas. Where do you go, Grasp? Random thing, I don't know, it just popped in my head. But yeah, Conqueror goes Sheen and Longsword. Lethal tempo, we want to prioritize Longswords and Daggers because we're auto-attacking a lot, so it's just best to go damage and attack speed versus Sheen, right? The more autos we get off and the more damage we have, the more damage we're going to deal versus amping up our W autos. So better to prioritize longswords and daggers. And then for fleet, I mean, dude, fleet matchups are aids, so we're just trying to survive with fleet. So some health, nice refill pot, you know, maybe a cheeky little longsword in there, and you'll be good to go. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Quick little update video on all the runes, new rune selection, build stuff. A lot of it is the same, like I said. It's just lethal tempo is better than PTA for these more aggressive matchups. So yeah, if you enjoyed, I would appreciate a little like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot more than you know. I'm live most days on Twitch. I'll be live today when this uploads. I do offer coaching. If you just go to tinyurl.com/hackscoaching or just check the link in my description, you'll see it there. And yeah, if you want to see most of this stuff that I just covered in depth and written down somewhere you can refer to it all the time, just go to Mobifire and find my my JAX guide. It says Challenger JAX guide. I'll be Challenger soon. Don't worry. Start of season. All right. And yeah, that'll be linked down below as well. Has all matchups, everything like that included. So yeah, if you enjoyed, just leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, just ask me in the comments. I respond to every comment. And yeah, have a good day, guys. See you later. Thank you for watching. Deuces.